Okay, go for it. Dr. Sada, you ready?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Right. We're all here, so shall we start? Yeah, so good morning and afternoon, depending on where you are. You're welcome to this lunch. My name is Dr. Sada Damusa, and I am the CEO of Midspace Consulting, the convening partner for this work. So I will be introducing the process, and I am going to welcome you informally because someone from the foundation who are supporting us is going to be officially welcoming you in the next few minutes. So we are here for today and tomorrow, and we hope to achieve some key objectives for these 2 days. I know it's it's a difficult time, so I want to thank you for coming. When this COVID situation and lockdown started, I thought it's going to be an easier work, but perhaps it's me, but it looks to me like I'm working, more hours now than I used to do. So I know it's a very, busy time. Thank you very much for coming. Before I go into the objectives, I just want to suggest some key um, uh, ground rules. One is that please, if you're not speaking, mute your system, just so that we don't have background noise from you. Also, if you're speaking, if you want us to see your face, you can open for video and then close back, especially for my colleagues here in Nigeria, just so that we were able to conserve the bandwidth. Now, an additional suggestion is that if your name is not on the platform, if it's not on the Zoom, please rename it, put your name and your organization so that we know who is here. We want to build a community, but there is very limited time, so we want to know as many people as possible. How to do that is if you just hover over your name, you will see 3 dots at the top right-hand corner. Once you pick that, you will see rename. So you can put your proper name and your organizational name. Again, thank you very much for coming. Next slide. Right, so regarding the objectives of the meeting, we're here for these 2 days to really put the learning collaborative in motion. And what we want to do is we use this launching to make sure that we have established it on strong footing. So part of the objectives we want to achieve for these 2 days is really to establish a shared vision between us, and then based on that, agree and share some key objectives and activities. And then we also want to get to know each other, because really for forming a community, that is very critical. Next slide. Yeah, so part of those objectives, we want to achieve them on this first day. And there are 3 key activities we plan to do within this, within this first day, ensure we achieve some of those objectives. One of them is really orienting us to the learning collaborative, which really will bring all of us to the same page in terms of our understanding of what the learning collaborative is. And then we'll also go and review a formative research that we have conducted earlier in there. And that will now allow us to know where we are in terms of social norms work in the country, and will provide us with the basis for forming our vision and the key activities for the community of practice. We also want to go into some activities so that we can actually start building and creating the community. With that, we'll wrap up day one, and we'll come back for day two. Next slide. Right, so as we all know, for an event or an endeavor like this, there are, a team that works behind the scene to ensure that the community of practice has come to life. This is what we call the convening team. It's composed of a partner, a convening partner, and then experts that support the group and the funding organization. I will just briefly show their faces and their names because once we get into the activity, every one of them will introduce himself. So at the convening partner, we are the Mid-Space Consulting based in country here in Nigeria. And I believe you have seen a lot of communication from Asbia, my colleague. So I am myself, Dr. Sada, Asbia, and Mikhail. The next group, the next slide, is that of some part of the experts. We have Rebecca and Meredith from the Center on Gender Equity and Health from the UC at San Diego School of Medicine. We also have Ben and Michelle, who are from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. The other members, we go to the next slide. The other members of the experts group is Bethy from FHI 360 and Paul from Makerere University in Uganda. We also have Rachel and Caroline from ODI. The next group is the donors, the funding partner group, and they are represented by 4 people, Jenny, Funke, Kaja, and Sohel, all of them from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, with whose generous funding we're doing this activity. I will call on Funke to give us just a brief welcome and a few minutes remarks before we continue. Funke, are you ready?
Yes, hi, good morning everyone, and thank you. My name is Funke Olufon. I'm the Senior Communications Officer at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I'd just like to take this opportunity to, again, welcome everyone to the launch of this new initiative, the Learning Collaborative Community of Practice on Social Norms in Nigeria, as has already been said, which is essentially to advance normative change in Nigeria. On behalf of the foundation, I'd like to thank all our partners that were already listed, the UCSD, London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, M-Space, FHI 360, for their partnership and particularly their leadership in making this happen. And just thank everyone dialed in for being a part of this initiative. As you all know, to a certain degree, the Learning Collaborative to Advance Normative Change has been established to improve programming and research that addresses the social norms that influence the success of all the development programs that we at the Gates Foundation and as many of you do in your day-to-day work. So we do believe that this community of practice will address the gender and social norms across the multiple health areas that we work in. As we start today and tomorrow, I hope, and we hope that through this community and interactive meeting, we're able to discuss collectively our goals for the Learning Collaborative, learn from each other on the work that we're all currently doing on social and behavior change, including social norms, and more importantly, together chart a way forward on how we would like to see this go and how best to leverage in this initiative that's being created. Again, thank you everyone for dialing in, and I wish all a productive day. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Funke. we are definitely delighted to be here, and I add a voice to thank everyone for being here. So just to clarify, the Learning Collaborative is working with a sister project, which is called the CARV. Both projects are funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And incidentally, MSpace, our organization, is also the convening partner for both. The CARV is implemented by MC Sachi, and it aims to increase the use of data for decision making and show how continuous learning and adaptive programming approaches can improve health intervention performance. That program is called the CARV, and a lot of communication that you will have from us will be referring to responsive feedback. So that project is different from this one, but they are working more or less complementarily to achieve the same objectives. So you will hear a lot about the two of them, just so that you don't get confused about the two. So we'll now go into the real learning collaborative, which we call the Nigeria Learning Collaborative Committee of Practice. What the people I introduced earlier are really just the back-end workers. You are really the actual learning collaborative. But because of time, we can't call everybody's name, but just to show you the spread, the name and the organizations where you're coming from, we have a significant amount of members are coming from implementing partners and others, including civil society organizations, including religious and community groups, including traditional leaders, doing a lot of different things in the health sector, different things in development. You will see the names here, and when we share the document, if your name is not here or is not correct, is not spelled correctly, please let us know so that we can change it. We are trying to build a community of practice, and the more we know each other, the better. In addition to these members that are coming from implementing partners, we have government representatives who are really the owners of this field. We have a representative from the Nigerian Governors Forum, and we have representatives from state primary healthcare agencies in Kaduna, Niger, and Kano. And we also have representatives from the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency at the national level. We also have universities, researcher representatives coming from Ahmadu Bello University, from the University of Abuja, and from Bayero University and Aminu Kano Teaching Hospital. So we have a good spread also of research institutions in Nigeria, especially in the northern part of the country, where we'll do most of the work. We also have donors, private foundations, including our funding agency, the Gates Foundation and Dangote Foundation. We also have bilateral agencies, USAID, DFID, and the Global Affairs Canada. And we also have Gavi, World Bank, and the Global Fund all represented. So you will see it's really a very collaborative community of practice, and we hope to learn a lot. With this, I will hand over to Rebecca so that she can take us into one of the key things we want to achieve today, which is orienting ourselves onto the learning collaborative to advance normative change. Rebecca, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sada. Hi, everybody. Really happy to be here with you all this afternoon. So my role is to introduce you to the Learning Collaborative and explain a little bit about how it builds on global and other regional learning collaboratives. I'll briefly discuss social norms and why they matter to our work. So we're coming together to address gender and social norms that influence a wide range of interrelated development outcomes, from maternal neonatal child health to women's economic empowerment. While there are many, many social norms influencing behavior, we're coming to understand there are a handful of norms that have a strong influence on outcomes across health and development sectors, often through the same mechanisms or intermediate effects. For example, norms about what it means to be a man or a woman in a particular setting might influence access to resources and services, desired family size, the ability of women to make choices about their own health, and what's appropriate to talk to with their partner's family. All of these in turn influence the outcomes you see on the right of the slide, such as education, healthy timing and spacing of pregnancies, and nutrition. So the goal of our learning collaborative is to integrate social norms into ongoing and new normative behavior change initiatives and to improve those that are already underway. We'll do this by sharing evidence, strengthening networks, building sustained expertise and capacity, sharing knowledge, and applying new knowledge and skills to programs and research. We hope this will be an experience where we're all learning from each other, those who are on the back end, as Dr. Sada said, and those of you who are leading the collaborative. So before we dig into the specifics of how we might work together, I'd like to take just a moment to talk about social norms. What are they? Why do they matter? And what programs might look like if with a strengthened social norms component. So social norms are different from individual attitudes and beliefs. They're unwritten rules about what is correct behaviors and ways of acting. They're often defined in relation to a reference group. So it's what people will believe is typical behavior and what people believe is appropriate behavior. For example, I might say all the other new mothers in my communities are using a family planning method. That's typical. But I could also say my mother and my mother-in-law expect me to use a method to space my next birth. So that's what's appropriate. Tomorrow, our colleague Ben Sizaki from the London School will talk about social norms and some of the basics and understandings around them in more detail. So one of the challenges we face in behavior change is that people often comply with norms even if they don't personally agree with them. For example, a woman might fail to immunize their children, although they believe in its benefits because others forbid it. So this slide shows some of the reasons people adhere to norms and give you an idea of where social norms programs might intervene. By fostering reflection to bring hidden norms to the surface, working with reference group members who influence the behaviors of others, or by providing individuals the skills or resources they need to resist prevailing norms. So I'm going to share two brief examples of programs which address social norms to reach their goals. Tomorrow and over the coming months, we'll learn from each other about programs here in Nigeria. So here are programs from, this program is from Benin, and this is an example of a program that reached its objective of increasing contraceptive prevalence by addressing norms rather than focusing only on knowledge and attitudes. The assumption of the program was that women were not using family planning because they lacked knowledge and access to methods. In reality, as you can see from the quotes on the slide, talking about and using family planning was not approved of or was not considered common in this community. Applying social network ideas, TJ conducted activities to show that many felt that it was acceptable to use family planning and it was okay for couples to talk about it. TJ worked with individuals and groups that community members identified as socially influential, organizing group discussions, one-to-one conversations, and community radio broadcasts. Evaluation results show that contraceptive use almost doubled in less than a year, and this strategy is now being expanded in Benin and in Mali as well. My second example of the difference applying a social norms perspective can make is Salima. This is a program implemented by UNICEF in Sudan that used mass media and social marketing approaches to promote the collective abandonment of the practice of FGMC. Salima successfully established a new beneficial norm of the desirability of uncut girls through branding and dialogue. The new brand meant whole, healthy, intact, and untouched in God-given condition. The result was a significant reduction of the norm about cutting among those exposed to activities, and it's been expanded throughout Sudan and now in Somalia and Egypt as well. So getting back to our work together, the Nigeria Learning Collaborative will build on global knowledge and experiences such as these and many others but also bringing your own expertise to the global conversation about social norms. The Nigeria Learning Collaborative is part of a broader global community, which includes regional networks in West and East Africa and South Asia. The Global Learning Collaborative was founded in 2016. After 2 years, members recognized the need to more fully engage researchers and implementers at the regional and country levels. So today we are hosting or launching the Nigeria Learning Collaborative. We also have a community of practice in Francophone West Africa with funding from USAID. And we also have a new East Africa Learning Collaborative, which is about to launch in the next month, led by CARE and the School of Women and Gender Studies in Uganda. And the Southeast Asia Learning Collaborative is just getting off the ground. So the goal of the Global Learning Collaborative, which was the group that started all of this, is to facilitate collaboration, build knowledge, and develop shared tools. We've been working in 3 subgroups: theory, measurement, and scale up, supported by a coordination committee of donors and academic organizations such as UNICEF and DFID. Today, it exists of over 300 members from almost 100 organizations. And we had 2 major outcomes of the first 2 years. One was strengthening connections, and they were strengthening connections and producing practical resources. Here you see the network connections of members before the Learning Collaborative, and here you see it after. As one member said, "I joined to hear about novel social norms work, to contribute knowledge we're gaining from our work in real time, much, much faster than publication, and to get to know others in the norm space." During its first 2 years, Global Learning Collaborative members worked together to produce 12 practical resources to guide social norms practice. I'm going to share them here with you today to give you a sense of what you can build on, what could you adapt, and what kind of materials the Nigeria group could build. When we share these slides, you can click on each of these icons and you can access the resource. So the first group of materials are designed to develop consensus on what social norms are and how they're linked to social structures. It also tries to prioritize and widely share essential norms resources to democratize social norms knowledge. The second are aimed at planning, the pre-planning phase, helping practitioners accurately assess social norms, reference groups, and sanctions. Tomorrow, you'll hear from Save the Children Nigeria about how they use this tool as a foundation for a new project that they have ongoing now. There's also a group of materials designed to support intervention design and scale up, and a final set of materials designed to support monitoring and evaluation. All of these resources can be found on the Learning Collaborative page here at the Align website. So I've shared a lot of background, but let's talk about Nigeria and how you all could work together. So the Learning Collaborative has identified a number of barriers to work addressing social norms. In a couple of minutes, you'll hear from my colleagues, Betsy and Michelle, about research in Nigeria which reveals similar challenges. So you can see that the barriers range from the failure to clearly articulate norms in program change, overly complicated approaches, and a weak evidence base. So these are all of the barriers that we hope that you all will be addressing in the next couple of years. The Nigeria Learning Collaborative will address these barriers by breaking down silos and strengthening connections between researchers and implementers across types of organizations, government, academia, and also between health sectors, such as family planning and nutrition. We hope the Learning Collaborative can strengthen the ability of members to apply state-of-the-art language and understanding, design programs, diagnose norms, and monitor and evaluate. So based on a shared vision and agenda, which will be developed during initial meetings today, tomorrow, and afterwards, members may choose to engage in these 4 areas of work that you see on the slide. Let me just tell you a little bit about each of these. So for documenting and sharing experiences, this is an opportunity to share and learn from each other's experiences and help to share it with the rest of the world as well. Betsy will reach out the next month with a request for more information about your experiences and tools. And she'll talk about this in a moment at the very end in a few minutes, actually. So we also have the opportunity to strengthen our capacity in the short term through training events, while also building longer term training opportunities through university partnerships. Possible training topics range from social norms assessment to design and monitoring and evaluation. Members' social norms practice can also be improved by technical assistance in areas such as social norms exploration, design, mass media, and community-based approaches. Here we will link members up with other experts globally and within Nigeria to provide support as needed to those activities. We can also work together to develop or adapt resources, possibly in collaboration with global members, but not necessarily. For example, the Global Learning Collaborative is developing an atlas of social norms across sectors, which some of you I think are already involved in. And we are also working with Breakthrough Action to develop a social norm shifting intervention sort of design toolkit. So there'll be opportunities to participate in those materials if you're interested. In addition, you might want to just develop your own materials. There are small grants available for members to coordinate resource development. And with that, I've sort of provided an outline of some of the activities we've been anticipating and a background of the history of the Social Norms Learning Collaborative. And I'm really happy that all of you are here today, and turning this over to my colleague Betsy Kostenbrader and Michelle Lecotte, who will talk about the formative research that was conducted at the beginning of the program a few months ago to guide the design of the Learning Collaborative. I think it's over to you, Betsy.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rebecca. I think I'm sharing my screen. Oops.
It's coming up, yeah.
Yeah. Ah.
Sorry.
You don't seem to be able to.
Can you just click forward?
I'm trying to. Sorry.
There you go.
I wasn't responding at first, so now it is. Give me a second. I apologize. Good afternoon, everyone. I am going to turn it over to my colleague, Michelle, to start sharing with y'all the results of a formative assessment we did to assess current work and interests for the Learning Collaborative in Nigeria. And bear with me. I thought I had it on the right side, but it did not go there. Okay, Michelle, over to you.
Thanks, Betsy. So thank you, everyone. We are just going to go through and provide you an overview of a formative assessment that was conducted earlier in the year to try and understand what work was currently being done on social norms in Nigeria, to look at how different organizations were connecting with each other, and to see what interest there might be in the formation of a learning collaborative and what people wanted to focus on. So in order to conduct this needs assessment, we administered an online survey, which many of you would have participated in, and we also conducted key informant interviews. So the online survey was a quantitative survey with 20 questions, and it was conducted earlier this year. In total, we had 73 responses. 28% of the responses were from the maternal and child health sector, 18% were from the family planning sector, 13% worked on women's rights issues, Around a third of our respondents were from local NGOs. A bit under a third were from international NGOs. Then we had 16% from universities and 12% from government agencies. Thanks, Betsy. The focus of this learning collaborative is on Northern Nigeria. So we had quite a lot of participants from Northern Nigeria, people who work across different states in the north, as well as people who work at the national level, and around 19% work at the national level. Thanks, Betsy. One of the key issues, and we also did key informant interviews. So we did 29 key informant interviews with INGOs, governments, local NGOs, academics, consultants, UN agencies, and donors. Around 16 were from the national level and the rest were from the north of Nigeria. So in the survey, as well as the interviews, for those of you who participated, you'll recall that we wanted to understand people's knowledge of social norms. What kind of existing training had people participated in? What did they know about social norms? So our findings found that 28% of participants said that they had very strong knowledge of social norms, followed by 53% who had a strong understanding, 16% who had a little understanding, and 3% who had a very little understanding. And indeed, many of you in the interviews were able to talk a lot about your experience working on norms. Many people had some understanding of social norms. So just back one, Betsy. One person said, I view norms as unspoken rules or unspoken codes of conduct. Another person said, a norm is a word that describes what is normal that people do. People in various locations do things according to what appears normal. We also found in the interviews that norms were sometimes conflated or mixed up with behavior, and people sometimes equated norms with behaviors. So one person said, social norms are practices and behaviors at the community level that shape the person's growth, that affect their development. We also wanted to understand, apart from knowledge, how are organizations actually identifying and incorporating social norms into their work? And so our findings found that, next slide, thank you, 62% of organizations had done some work to try and identify what norms were operating in relation to a particular issue. 32% had never done any work to understand what the norms were. And then when it came to incorporating a social norms perspective, quite a high percentage said that they were using a norms perspective. So 76% said they were incorporating a norms perspective. Thanks, Betsy. We wanted to understand what approaches people were using to identify norms. 19% said that they used community meetings, so group meetings, in order to have the community input into what the norms were. 18% conducted qualitative research, 13% was based on observing, so the knowledge of their context and observing what norms were present. And then people also mentioned previous programs, personal knowledge, surveys, and literature. We wanted to understand how norms are incorporated into people's work. And for most people, for over 30% of them, it was done through program implementation or theory of change. So people gave examples of how norms were embedded into these processes. Some people also mentioned monitoring indicators. People talked about reports that incorporated a norms perspective, and as well as evaluation measures. We wanted to understand what challenges people face when they do their work on social norms. And in the survey, people were asked to respond from a list of options to identify the key challenges that they faced. So the biggest challenges you can see up there on the screen. So challenges in adding social norms to programs due to donor rules or the timing of the program. So 13% said that that was an issue. 12% identified lack of funding. Further down, lack of resources was also mentioned by 12%, and lack of training on social norms by 12%. Thanks, Betsy. In the interviews, we delved a little bit deeper into some of the challenges around social norms work. Many people referred to the time and the resources required for social norm change. One person said, "Everyone wants to get the low-hanging fruit, but change is generational. To reach a critical mass requires a lot of resources." Lack of understanding of social norms was also identified as a key challenge to this work. Another person said, "The most significant challenge I see now is that there is a lot of norms language and a lot of norms theory. Everyone is picking it up. It's the new kid on the block, the thing to do. People are understanding the rhetoric, but the actual ability to program is years behind the rhetoric." People also identified that it was difficult to engage with the community on sensitive topics. So norms are often linked to sensitive issues like family planning and violence. And people said, how do you start the conversation? These are not easy conversations to have. You can get into trouble if you don't have those conversations carefully. The Nigerian context was also mentioned as particularly challenging. One person said, "In our HIV work," one second.
I'm so sorry. There seems to be out of timings that were put on these, and I keep advancing on me. Sorry.
Okay, there we go. "In our HIV work, we have a different strategy for each of the 7 states. Although they are similar geographical areas and all Muslim, this is the biggest challenge, that diverse cultural base that we contend with." So many people reference that although we're working in northern Nigeria, there is still so much difference between all the different states in northern Nigeria. Thanks, Betsy. We also wanted to understand, what are the enabling factors? What makes norms work possible? What makes it easy? And similarly in the survey, we asked people to answer this. 13% said that if they had funding allocated for social norms work, that made it possible. Another 13% referred to training on social norms, and 13% talked about guidance materials, manuals, and other resources. 12% talked about monitoring and evaluation tools, and 11% also referred to the need to understand what norms are. And you can see again, sort of slightly mirrored in the challenges, where people talked about the need for funding, the need for resources and knowledge of social norms. And this is what is identified as the things that would help them to integrate norms approaches. Thanks, Betsy. In the interviews, we also delved into some of the enabling factors. A number of people raised the importance that organizations working on norms should not push their own agendas when they do this work. They talked about the importance of understanding the community as they are and appreciating their deep-rooted historical background, and also working with them through mutual understanding. People also raised the need to involve the right groups in the community. One person said that collaboration with gatekeepers in the community, with community leaders and religious leaders, that was really key. And now I'll pass on to Betsy to continue with the rest of our findings.
Great, thank you, Michelle. So we also asked a series of questions on the survey. I think there were 9 different questions we asked about how organizations have been connecting about, specifically about work on gender and social norms in the past 6 months. And so the first question was, we asked them about with organizations with which they've engaged in any capacity on gender or social norms in the past 6 months. And this is a heat map. So you see in the rows, you see the outgoing connections, and in the columns, you see the incoming connections. So for instance, individuals who came from donor or funding agencies said they had engaged with 3 different local NGOs for the past 6 months. What you see here in terms of the darker colors, you see a lot of the activity happening with the local NGOs. And so I should say we organized all the different participating individuals in terms of the types of organizations they worked for. So we grouped the local NGOs, international NGOs, universities, government, donor funding agencies, and then other consultants and media. And so you see pretty clearly that a lot of the activity is happening with the local NGOs. They're both receiving a lot of connections and sending out a lot of connections to other types of organizations. You see that the government is receiving a lot of incoming connections, but hasn't sent out as many to other organizations. So this is kind of an interesting starting point for the different connections in the group. And then we created these different sociograms. And what we see here, we use different colors, again, to denote the different types of organizations. And this is a question about organizations you've invited or been invited to any meeting touching on gender or social norms in the past 6 months. There were 29 participants who did not have any connections or had not attended any meetings with any of the other organizations here. So those are the isolates. And then we, you see the larger the size of the circle means the more connections that that organization both received or sent out. So that's the total number of connections they had in the organization, denotes the size of that node. We use these abbreviations, shortenings of the names of the organizations here. And then we use the different color coding to see the different types of organizations. So you see some clustering, and you see the more larger nodes kind of taking up a bit of more central position, and some clustering over here with government, kind of a blue cluster over here of government connections who've all attended meetings together, and then up here in the red, some university organizations who've all attended meetings. And then a lot of the green again with the NGOs. And then this was a sociogram looking at organizations that have connected over trainings or workshops. And again, what you see here is that there are again some clusterings, you know, notably that the university, there's a cluster of folks from universities who attended some trainings together. They're kind of more peripheral to the larger, the rest of the connections. So people aren't necessarily attending the same trainings. And were 62 individuals who had not attended any trainings or workshops related to gender or social norms in the past 6 months. Auto timing, I apologize, keeps advancing. But this gives us a good understanding of where we're starting with the connections between the group. So then we asked a bunch of questions in the key informant interviews to get some advice on what the learning collaborative would look like. What do people recommend? And the recommendations kind of fell into a couple of different buckets or themes. There was a theme about capacity building, and there were quite a few folks who talked about things about capacity building. One participant said, I would focus on sharing findings and doing trainings, conferences, or some kind of event to have panel presentations. Another participant noted, let's try to avoid it being a big talk show. Social norms are quite trendy, so lots of people would want to be part of it. You could have different forums, learning for it once a year, but deep dives for smaller groups more often. Another theme was a lot of discussion around interest and need for tools and guidelines. One participant said strategies should be specific, not general. Models could be adapted, which Nigerian cultures fit the Kenyan culture, etc. And another participant noted if there are curricular frameworks for implementing projects or guidelines, a question, that's what I struggle with. Are those out there? Another bucket was specifically around training, a lot of discussion around training. One participant noted, I've never attended any training or workshop that was focusing on social norms. Another noted, training should be practical. There's too much theory out there. It took me years to grasp the whole empirical versus conjunctive, all this language, it really confuses people, making it as accessible and grounded as possible to avoid the jargon. And this need for training resonates with the sociogram we just saw with a lot of isolates, folks who hadn't attended trainings on gender or social norms. There was a theme about who should be part of the COP. One participant noted there's a real need to bring people who have real experiences to make it very practical. Also not to have too many people in the room. But then quite a few other participants talked about the need to incorporate lots of diverse groups and the importance of traditional groups and faith groups should be part of the COP. Another bucket was talking about visibility, funding, and competition, right? So this issue of it's a very competitive environment we work in. Groups are always suspicious of one another, of motives. People suspect one organization is trying to position themselves to have an edge for a particular donor. What I advise is to get this entity to be as neutral as possible. You need to think about who leads, where it is housed, so people are clear on the motives. So on that note, we've kind of gone through a lot of findings here, but we want to think about what do you want to get out of the Learning Collaborative? And we'd like to spend the next, I guess we have about 10 minutes to discuss both these findings, and we're also at the same time going to launch a poll with 2 questions that we'd like you to answer. So go ahead and, it should have popped up on your screen. And go ahead and answer these 2 questions, and then we can share those. And in the meantime, go ahead and put into the chat box if you have any questions about our presentation. Go ahead and start putting those into the chat box as well. And then we'll look together at the poll results and have some time for questions. So these are 2 questions about what do you want to get out of the Learning Collaborative, and what topics would you like to see in the capacity building sessions. So votes are coming in. And don't be shy to go ahead and put any thoughts, questions, comments you have into the chat box, and we will. And I think everyone should have the poll on their screen. If you're having any issues, please let us know. But this is great. Votes are coming in. So as we're waiting for more people to vote, I would encourage you, if you want to put something into the chat box or unmute your line if you have any questions or points that you'd like to raise based on what we just presented or on what you're hoping to get out of the Learning Collaborative. We would love to have a bit of a discussion. Yeah, so far we only have about 60% of you that have voted, so please remember to hit submit when you're done. Cool.
Hello? The submit button is not responding.
Submit button is not responding.
Yeah.
Don't know. Meredith, do you have any tips?
No, I'm sorry. I think it may be frozen. Is anybody having is anyone else having that problem? Yeah, okay. I think a couple others are having that issue. But I'm also seeing a few more votes come in. Sorry for those who are finding theirs are frozen. And just a reminder to scroll down to the other question as well. So you should be able to scroll the box to vote in the second question. Okay, I'm going to end polling and share the results. Thanks to everyone who submitted, and sorry for those who had an issue with the button.
Great, so we had about, what, 80% of folks who were able to vote, is that right? Yeah.
Yep, almost 80%. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you, everyone.
Great, so I see, I noticed that the results here resonate a bit with what we found in our formative assessment, right? That one of the things people are most interested in is participating in trainings and capacity building sessions, so that's great. Also sharing experiences and learning from others, which is great, as that's one of our goals, and building connections, fantastic. So I'll be talking a little bit more about how we can share our experiences in a minute. And then in terms of what topics, we take particularly strong interest in designing norm shifting interventions, as well as measurement, monitoring, evaluation. Great. This does seem to resonate quite a bit with our formative assessment. Does anyone have any other thoughts or questions in terms of our formative assessment, or moving forward what we would like to get out of the Learning Collaborative? A few more minutes. Rebecca, I don't know if you have any overall thoughts about the poll here. Okay, great. Well, if there's no further comments or thoughts, we can move ahead here to our next session. And Meredith, my screen seems to be frozen. Does it have something to do with the poll?
I would exit out of the full screen and go back to the slides. Or you can unshare and reshare, and that should do the trick.
Huh. I don't seem to be able to advance. What's going on? Let's see.
Okay, I can share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen? Betsy, you can go on to this next session.
Sorry. Sorry,
Meredith, do you want to introduce the next session maybe?
Sure, so I will, yeah, Betsy, I'll share my screen.
Sorry, I'm going to try to do it again so really quickly. I don't know why my screen is having issues, but I'm going to share again.
Okay, go ahead.
Maybe I'm sharing
Great, we can see it.
Okay, great. Okay, so the next thing in terms of documenting and sharing our experiences, one of the first things, and I'll be following up after this meeting with you all about this, but one of the first things we'd like to interest you on is sharing your experiences on this map. We, as part of the Global Learning Collaborative, we created this interactive map for searching and finding other projects on social norms that are happening around the world. And it's hosted on the ODI's Align website. We'll send you that link. And you go to the website. I'm going to show you how it works. And you can click on the map and zoom in. So for instance, we can zoom in on Nigeria.
Betsy, we're just seeing your slides.
Gracious.
You have to share your screen on your.
I know, I apologize. Oh goodness, okay. I'm going to stop sharing and try to share again. Okay, now can y'all see?
Yes.
Okay, I apologize. All right, so this is, like I said, this is a website we created as part of the Global Learning Collaborative, and it's on hosted on ODI's Advancing Learning and Innovation on Gender Norms website. And you go to the map and you click, you can zoom in, and for instance, if we zoom in here on Ethiopia, you can then click and see what projects are listed in Ethiopia. And then you can go down here and you can click on the project. And there's a summary of the work that they're doing, the organizations that are involved, the social norms they've been looking at, the behavioral outcomes they've been looking at, the project components, the key findings. And then for those who are willing to share their data collection instruments, those are also attached, and you can click on their instruments and see the surveys or approaches that they use, study guides that they use. So that's really valuable resource, I think. And we will be sending, you can also, go back, you can also search using, you can put in keywords here to search for on the map, and you can also use different tags if you're specifically interested in the project, say on child marriage, you click that and it would pull up all the projects that have done work on child marriage. Or if you're interested in particularly in collecting data using a certain technique, a focus group for instance, you would go over to here and you would click on focus group and it would pull up all the projects that have used focus group discussions to collect their data. So we would like to, as you can see right now, we don't have a lot of dots in Nigeria. So we would like to build this in with all the work that you all are doing. So we're going to send you a project link to fill in your projects. And it will take you through like a short survey where you select what your project is about and you fill in a summary sheet on your project. Give us a short paragraph about what your project is about. And then on the back side, you will have this case study like this to review about your project, and that will be posted on the map. So like I said, I will be following up with an email, instructions about this, but we're interested and eager to see all the work that you've been doing and to feature it on the map so you can all share from what other folks are doing. So I will be following up and you can let me know if you have any questions about that. And now I'm going to turn it over to Hasbi.
Thank you very much, Betsy. Thank you very much for that interesting brief. Good afternoon, all. We will be proceeding with a breakout room where we'll be addressing the question. what are we bringing to the Learning Collaborative. You'll all be in randomized into the groups. We have 4 groups with a moderator and a note taker each. The breakout session would take about 15 minutes, where we'll now then come back to the general discussion, and then just highlight with 1 minute with a volunteer, highlight one major point from the breakout rooms. Meredith?
Okay, so you will be automatically sent into your rooms. You should have a if you have a pop-up that asks if you'll go into the rooms, then you should click on that. And then you'll be brought back in about 15 minutes. So sit tight, and we'll see you in your breakout rooms.
So hello, everyone. Just to confirm, can you just indicate if you can hear me?
We can hear you.
Great, great. So what we'll be doing in this group in the next 15 minutes is looking together and coming up with points that we think for what we can bring to the Learning Collaborative. I see, since it's a smaller group, I think we have the chance to speak and give our opinions. I see in total we have about, I can see up to 8 people here. Please feel free to unmute yourself, and we could take the.
Good afternoon.
Paul? Good afternoon.
Hello.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think a few people just joined in. So I'll just, Paul, are you there?
I'm here.
Yes. Do you want to give a brief? Yes. Yes. So maybe I do a little introduction, then we take it up from there. So,
sure.
Mikhail Aliu, I'm Director of Programs in M-Space. And as was shared earlier, we are the local conveners for the Learning Collaborative here in Nigeria. And I also have my colleague here, Paul. Paul, do you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Paul. I'm a professor at Makerere University School of Social Sciences. I'm happy to meet all of you.
Great, great. So as I said, it's a group, and please, when you can feel free to unmute, and we're hoping to hear from everyone. The major questions we'll be looking at in the next 15 minutes is talking about what we're bringing to Learning Collaborative as individuals, and also has based on the organizations which you work. What are your interests, motivations, experiences, and challenges? This will help us to plan better moving forward, how we work as a community of practice. And of course, if there were some items that were not on the poll, which you wish to discuss on, you could also bring them in here. Hello?
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, my name is Kola.
Please go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, my name is Kola Olatosimi. I'm from the Child and Youth Protection Foundation. And basically what we do is we deal with the issue of child protection and gender-based violence. We're based in Abuja. I think one of the major interests of our organization is ending child marriage in communities, and also ensuring that the girl child have access to education. And we'll be working in communities, and in ensuring that parents actually send their children to school and don't give out their kids to child labor. What I think we can bring to the table is our experience in communities, in trying to change the expectation of parents involving their kids in child marriage or child labor. And we believe that this platform will be able to give us the opportunity to learn on how to work better in the communities. Sometimes, about 2 years ago, we had a training with Tostan in Senegal, and that have actually changed our approach to community development and community work. And so we're hoping that we'll be able to learn better from this platform, and also begin to see a lot of things change, because we believe in when it comes to child protection in Nigeria, we need to just change some, work on some social norms that, like we've said before, funders don't really fund changing social norms. But in the little way we can is we can learn one or two things on how to make community engagement better. Yeah. Thanks. And it's so good to be here. I've learned so much.
Thank you so much, Kolawole. Thank you for your contribution. I do agree. Like you said, it's not social norms. Changing social norms is not an area that has been heavily funded. And hopefully, we hope that you see, from looking at the combination of members we have in this committee of practice, the donors, the implementers, and different, even the government. I mean, these kind of the things we could use to push it forward and ensure that most of what we learn is being incorporated in programs in our respective field. I don't know if anyone would have any other thing to add. I see we have other members in the group. Please feel free. Remember, yes. So we have Raihana. Please go ahead. I can see your hands raised. You can unmute yourself to speak, please.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you. My name is Dr. Raihana Ibrahim. I work for Solina Group, which is a consortium of organizations. But more importantly, the Solina Center for International Development and Research works a lot in health system strengthening in Nigeria. In the biggest sectors of PHC system strengthening, as well as some organizational capacity building for government MDAs, as well as state governments and donors. Primarily, the project that I work on and manage is the Northern Nigerian Routine Immunization Strengthening Project, which works in 6 Northern Nigerian states to improve immunization and PHC coverages. And the experience that we bring from that experience, from working in the northern states for almost 10 years, is understanding the different social norms and the different things that, would I say, affect or impede routine immunization and health seeking behavior generally in the north, and also seeking to learn more ways to be able to incorporate those things into the work that we do. Over the years, we have gradually expanded our scope of work, still on routine immunization strengthening and PHC development, to other countries in Africa. So there is a lot of cross-learning that we'll be bringing from those countries, and also hoping to learn from other people in this learning collaborative. Community engagement or social norms are very key to the work that we do, because we found that we've spent years trying to build the government or the health system side of things, but still struggle significantly with getting the communities to demand for all of these services that are available for free. And you find that a lot of social norms and a lot of things that we don't we don't really fully understand or able to change tend to affect immunization coverages, for example, or delivery at health facilities and things like that. So I think this is a great place and a great opportunity to share information on things like that, and also meet other people doing similar things and share ideas. Over.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Dr. I mean, I'll be so interested to hear more on that as we go ahead. And just to say, these are the kind of things we're looking at, from Kolawole, who spoke about his experience in child marriage, and you talking about routine immunization in the northern part of Nigeria. I mean, it's beginning to show how diverse the community of practice is and how much we can learn from each other as time goes by. Just to also say, I'd like to thank, I know most of you can see someone typing at the screen behind, and it's not me, it's Meredith, our colleague, and she's doing, I think she's capturing what you're saying behind. So please, if others would like to pop in now, please feel free. You can raise your hand, or if we're quiet, you can just go ahead and get yourself to speak.
Hello, Mikhail.
Yes, hello, Paul, yes.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot about practice-based learning, and I think that is really encouraging. People wanting to share the good practices around social norm change that are happening at the community level, that the organizations are learning. So practice-based learning, I think, is a very important component, and it is welcome.
Great. So Hadiza, I noticed you unmuted yourself. Perhaps you wanted to say something? After Hadiza, we can then go to Lawal Sani. So Hadiza, over to you. Okay, so I think we can go with Lawal, please, you can go ahead. Feel free to unmute yourself when you're ready.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Yes, my name is Lawal Sani Mohammed from Athenet. Athenet, with over 10 years experience in project implementation in the northern Nigeria, is now currently embarking on a project to improve PSC data in some northern states, with the objectives of improving quality and acceptability of primary healthcare data for programmatic decision making and using behavioral approaches while leveraging on technical approaches. So the project will identify behavioral drivers for PSC data quality in Nigeria, implement human-centered design behavioral science approaches to improve PSC data quality, strengthen the implementation of data quality improvement plan at the subnational level. So we are embarking also on formative research. The outcome of this formative research will be shared, and I'm looking to learn from other colleagues on how to improve our project implementation. Thank you, over.
Mikhail, we have about 2 minutes left before it will send us back. Is anyone interested in sharing out with the group maybe one or two of the points we've talked about here? Any other points that folks wanted to share?
Yeah, so we're asking if anyone is willing to volunteer to perhaps talk on one of these points, which we've, okay, Paul, I can see your hands raised. Please go ahead.
I have one issue on intergenerational transfer of positive social norms. What processes facilitate intergenerational transfer of social norms from, say, the older generation to the younger generation? Because when we talk of social norms, it is not only about the negative norms or harmful norms, but there are also positive norms. So how do these, how can this be transferred from one generation to another? Thank you.
Great. So we have 1 minute more. would anyone be willing to volunteer to pick one of these points? And I think we're going to have a chance to speak on what we discussed in our group, just to talk on one point. So can we agree on the points perhaps to share, or perhaps we could put them together as one and share? You can just raise your hand if you're willing to volunteer. I see no one wants to volunteer.
Mikhail, maybe it will have to be you.
Oh, I wish I could raise a hand here by myself for someone. Would there be any other thing to add? I see we have Dr. Funke, I see you're here. I see, okay, I think everyone else has spoken. Dr. Funke, will you have anything to add? I don't mean to bring you up, but if you have anything, but if not, it's fine. Okay.
Thanks, Mikhail. Nothing to add.
Okay, thank you so much. So I think, okay, we could go ahead. We'll be going back to the room about now. And thank you very much for all the contributions. And I look forward to seeing you in the larger group.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello? Oh.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, hello, okay. Welcome back to the general group. Next on the agenda will be the report out session. So we're going to start with group one. Group one, please, we have just 1 minute for each group to just highlight one key major point that was discussed in the group discussion.
Okay, thank you, Hasbi. I'm reporting for group one. My name is Mikhail Aliyu. So in the group, it's quite clear to see we have a vast diversity of a diverse nature of members in the group. One of the issues that was discussed, which was the first issue, was on child marriage. We have colleagues with vast experience in child marriage, looking at how to bring in some of their experience from working in Northern Nigeria into this community of practice. Also focusing on bringing in learnings on how social norms have worked in their community, in their work with engaging communities in Northern Nigeria. A few things touched on different areas from practice-based learning, interest in intergenerational transfer of positive social norms from older generation to younger generation. We have talked about primary healthcare strengthening, and as it's a whole gamut of experiences from the health sector. It's to be interesting to see how we can learn from each other going forward as we move on with the Learning Collaborative.
Thank you very much, Mikhail. Group two. Hello, group two. Dr. Sada and Betsy.
Group two, yes, Uchenna, presenting on our behalf.
Yes, thanks. Hi. So in group two, interestingly, we had a diverse group of individuals, some which had just basic knowledge of social norms, to those who had very deep knowledge, and cut across different program areas from academics as well, donors, but also implementers working across programs. We had immunization, reproductive health, and so on. I think ultimately we had a few different ideas, but the one that we thought to bring to the group that was quite interesting was ensuring we incorporate social norms or mainstream social norms into the way we do program. Now think of it across every sphere of the program in terms of the way we operate, whether it's the way we engage with the communities, the way we even offer services, deliver supervision, interact with the data, and so on. So I think that's a very broad perspective, but we definitely touch on everything we do, and hopefully we learn the lessons and we get the tools, you know, from the collaborative to be able to do this mainstreaming as proposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Uche. Group 3.
Yeah, so we forgot to select a rapporteur. So this is Ben, and I was the note taker. So I will give back the feedback, and then I hope I do a good job. We had a very diverse conversation. I think in the end, what we boil it down to is the one point it goes down to is that there is a great availability of data, a wealth of evidence, but clear gaps in how the evidence is used in policy and implementation. And so the group really hopes that the Learning Collaborative will help them support policymakers, donors, and implementers in using social norms theory to address health-related practices and analyze existing data across a variety of health-related diseases and conditions.
Thank you very much. Group 4 was Hasbiallah and Michelle. Baba Funke will be helping us with the discussion.
Thank you very much. For Group 4, our experience across social norms cuts across the unique different sectors with specific interventions that cuts across various topics and unique audience segments. So it is our hope that by infusing social norms, we're able to better design our project for optimal results. And some of the experience shared cuts across the nutrition, maternal and child health, family planning, even the non-health sector. So yeah, we also were a diverse group like the others have presented, but we have the common ground and the common agreement that we hope this platform helps us to design our projects better. Over.
Thank you very much, everyone, for the amazing presentation. It's interesting and good to know the diverse nature, which has been the constant discussion across the group. Over to Paul. Paul is going to give us a wrap-up session for day 1 for the discussions so far. Thank you very much. Paul?
I think Paul has been having, is he on? He's been having connection problems. Maybe Mikhail could step in. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So since Paul is having some issues, I'll just take over the session for him. So once again, thanks everyone for joining. As we said from the start, we understand that most people are busy given this present situation, but we appreciate you joining. Today, just to give a recap of what we've done so far, I think from the start, Dr. Sadat gave a brief introduction to everyone, and it's clear to see how diverse the community of practice is. Interestingly, you see that there's a spread from implementing partners to donors to traditional rulers, CSOs, and others, as you see there. From there, Rebecca gave an orientation of the Learning Collaborative Community of Practice in Nigeria and globally, to see how this Nigerian community of practice fits into the global community of practice. As you see that there are other community of practice, the global, that in Eastern Africa, and of course that coming up in Asia too. She also gave a little brief about the goals and objective of the Nigerian Learning Collaborative. The formative research conducted was later shared. I assume that many members from this community of practice were part of the online surveys and also some of the in-depth interviews that were done. I can see while I'm wrapping up, if you have any questions, you can just drop them there. And before we go, we'll try to see how we can address them if they've been missed earlier. Of course, with the group work has shown us how diverse we are, and we're looking to move forward. So Now for the next session, before we go, I'd like everyone to please indulge me in giving one reflection on today. And in the chat box function there, just type in a word for your reflection on today's, what we've done so far today. Feel free just to type in one word in the group chat. If you haven't had that open, you can look at the bottom of your screen, you see the chat option, and then you can type in one word. Just give a word to describe your reflection for today. Great, I'm seeing some coming in. We have excited. That's great. Informative, quite good. Thank you. Please keep them coming. Keep them coming. We'll be over the next 1 minute. We could still take that. Sharing, nice. Informative, collaborative. We have a few of interesting, more and more. Thank you. Very interesting. So that makes it even more better than interesting now. New partnerships. Inspiring, insightful, more interesting. So you can keep the words coming over the 1 minute before we close. We'll keep going back to there. But from now, please feel free to thought-provoking, quite interesting. So please keep them coming in over the next minute. Informative. So please keep them coming in while we go. So tomorrow we'll be having, we'll be reconvening again at the same time with the same link. I'm sure you must have received the links to, from my colleague Hasbi. So please, by tomorrow, 2 p.m., we'll be reconvening through the same link. Tomorrow we'll start with a recap. And after the recap, we'll be discussing on social norms theory and practice. We'll be having some experience from the field, especially in Nigeria, from Save the Children. And my colleague Ben will be also giving some presentation there. We'll talk about roadmap for working together, how we'll be working out together. That will be a breakout session similar to what we had today. And then we'll be closing up with the next steps. Just to also add that this officially is the launch of our Learning Collaborative Community of Practice. And as we go on, there'll be more engagements after this meeting. As was mentioned earlier, we'll be sharing the slides and also the link for which was presented earlier, and for you to input your projects and tell us more about what your projects are doing. So yeah, we'll have more time for work tomorrow in the breakout sections. So Rebecca said we're looking forward to everyone joining. Hasbi would do a reminder just before the time, because I do understand we have busy schedules. And once again, I want to thank you all for coming in today. It's been very insightful. I was just saying that, as someone typed that in there. And it's interesting to see the diversity and the experience, the diversity and experience we have from members in the community of practice. So once again, I'll just be handing over to, while we close out, I'd like to hand it over back to how we started, and then we can close out for today. Rebecca, over to you.
Sure. I think there's really not much left to say. I'm here seeing a thank you from Paul, who's another one of our colleagues who are helping to support this effort from Uganda, who couldn't join. So he's saying thanks to all. And yeah, just thank you everyone for your participation today. And the breakout was very exciting. I think we really started to get some interesting conversations going, and we hope to keep them going tomorrow. So if there's nothing else, then we just thank you all and hope to see you tomorrow, and have a great evening.
Great.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. See you tomorrow.
Yeah, bye-bye. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you, and see you all tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye. See you tomorrow.
Hi. Merci.
It looks like we're almost down to the core. So are we just going to stand for a few minutes and chat about tomorrow?
Yeah, I think we should.
All right. We have someone in the waiting room. What should we do with them?
Oh yeah, that's me just
Okay.
putting people in the waiting room. Okay, I think that's it.
Good job. Great job, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, great work.
Yeah, great work, team.
Yeah. So that's great. So yeah, we really started, the breakout room was great. You know, I think you can really feel the flavor of people's interests and